Hey everyone, welcome back to another Papo review. Today we're going to take a look at their long-retired Pachyrhinosaurus. I hope everyone is enjoying me going back and reviewing these older figures. I like to do this when I have some downtime on the channel, and lately I've had a lot of downtime. Not a lot of new stuff coming in, but that should probably change around end of March, April, when all the Jurassic World Dominion stuff starts coming out. That's going to be a whole slew of stuff to review, but I always like going back and taking a look at these older figures. Brings back good memories. Take them out and handle them, look them over, especially some of these figures that have been long buried in my storage boxes in the basement. Now, this Pachyrhinosaurus got released from Papo back in 2010, and it was retired in 2018. So it had an 8-year run, but it's 2022, and this is still a pretty sought after figure for Papo collectors. Not many of them pop up on eBay and for sale, and when they do, they are actually quite expensive. So if you're tracking one down, I wish you luck, and maybe you get lucky someone's selling like a whole dinosaur lot on eBay or Macari, and some people get good deals because some of these people don't know what they're selling, so you probably could get lucky and snag one for a decent price. Back in the day when Papo started making dinosaur figures, they were making a lot of unofficial, Jurassic figures. And when this Pachyrhinosaurus came out, this is when they were kind of slightly getting away from that. They started doing, original sculpted dinosaur figures, not based off anything from the movies. And I was really excited when this Pachyrhinosaurus came out, because at the time, it was the best Pachyrhinosaurus figure on the market. It's still a really good figure from Papo, but it does have a couple quirks, but we'll get to that a little bit later on in the review. So let's throw this thing up on the turntable and start this review. So let's start with this 360-degree view of this Pachyrhinosaurus. One thing Papo has always been great at is sculpting their figures in lifelike poses, and this Pachyrhinosaurus is no different. It's sculpted in a nice charging pose. Looks like it's about to go after a rival or a potential predator. The sculpting detail, for most Papo figures is always top notch. They've always done a great job of just breathing life into their figures and giving them a lot of character. One thing I don't like that they started doing around the time the release of this figure is they gave a lot of their figures this gloss coat, and it doesn't make the figure look as nice as some of their earlier releases. I like the nice matte finish. The gloss coats makes the figures look too much like a cheap toy, and unfortunately this Pachyrhinosaurus is covered head to toe in a glossy, shiny coat. Color scheme is kind of bland. It's mostly just grays and browns, but it is a natural looking color scheme. It's nothing too vivid, and I think it works nicely for this figure. Couple quirks on this. The ornamentation on the frill is very deer-like. It just sticks up too high. It's not super accurate, but like I said, back in 2010 when this figure came out, this was the best Pachyrhinosaurus figure on the market, and beggars couldn't be choosers because there really wasn't a lot of options out there. Fast forward to 2022, we have a ton of options when it comes to Pachyrhinosaurus. I always consider Pachyrhinosaurus, Styracosaurus, and Triceratops the three most popular ceratopsian figures that dinosaur toy companies produce. And now for a couple quick measurements. This figure is about 6.5 inches long from the tip of the snout to the tip of that short tail, and just over 3 inches tall to the top of the frill. So Pachyrhinosaurus in real life is estimated to be around 20 feet long. So I'll put this figure in that 1/36 scale range. So let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with the head. You can tell by the way the ornamentation is on the frill and these little spikes that come out in the middle of the frill that this Pachyrhinosaurus is modeled after the species Pachyrhinosaurus lacustae, and every Pachyrhinosaurus figure ever made is based in that species. There are two other valid species, Pachyrhinosaurus canadensis and Perotorum, and I really hope someday someone will give the other species some attention. I guess it just looks fancy because it has this extra ornamentation, and the other ones look a little bit bland next to it, but it would be nice to actually get all three species of Pachyrhinosaurus made in the figure form someday. Now the head is packed full of nice details. You can see all nice scale variation. Got a couple little spikes coming out just above the nose. That is a neat little touch. You can see the nostril sculpted in right there. The beak is nicely sculpted. Now the eye on mine is not painted that well. So Papo has this thing going on. When a figure is in production for a long time, when they do, second, third, fourth, etc. production runs, the paint quality seems to dip. The first run figures usually have the best paint apps. I can't remember exactly what year I got this figure. It was definitely a little bit after 2010, so I might have gotten like a second or third run figure. Went back and looked at some pictures on Google, and the eyes on some of the Pachyrhinosaurs I saw on Google were painted much better. So I think my figure is definitely not a first run, and that is a shame because, you know, Papo does great job painting their figures, but I just really do not like the dip in quality that happens to them when they start going to multiple production runs of these figures. The eye is painted yellow with a black pupil. Inside the mouth, it kind of has this really deep purple coloration. No teeth sculpted in there. I know that looks like teeth right here, but I think that is just a little bit of the mold that remained unpainted. You can see the fenestra is nicely sculpted. It has a nice rim of large scales around it. There's the classic lacustae ornamentation in the middle of the frill, and then you have these really weird looking like deer antler horns on the top of the frill. They should be a lot lower and more curved over the frill to be accurate, and then you get some more nice scale variation all over the frill. The boss is nicely sculpted. You can see that gloss coat, you know, makes the figure look really shiny all over the body, especially when you get down to the main body. You can see the studio lights reflecting off it. Main body is cast in this dark gray color, and then you have some light brown along the neck and back to bring out all that nice scale detail. Now going down to the front legs, the hands do look okay. The position, let's see if we can get the camera to focus in on that. Come on, there we go. These right here, two claws, toes, should not be painted, and they're a little high up, but it's not bad. The hand shape looks pretty good to me. Just these two fingers right here are just a little high up, and they should not be painted, as I'm beating the living crap out of my camera while I'm doing this. And then going down to the main body is some large osteoderms sprinkled throughout the body, some nice folds and wrinkles. Hind feet look good. They are painted with glossy black paint. You have a very short tail. And turn the figure over to the underside. You get some nice variation in the belly scales. And let's always do, we always have to do it, let's do our dinosaur butthole check. There really isn't one on this figure. It's just the seam line from the mold. Kind of makes it look like it has a cloaca, but you know, it's not official. So this poor thing must be constipated to holy hell without its butthole. So yeah, a nice looking Pachyrhinosaurus figure, nice active looking pose. Not a perfect Pachyrhinosaurus, but if you're looking for something around like the 135 scale range, it'll look nice in your collection. Moving on with comparisons, let's first start off with some Papo ceratopsians. Here it is with their Triceratops, which is obviously based off the Jurassic Park version. And next, here it is with their Styracosaurus, which is still to this day an absolutely fantastic looking figure. And lastly, for Papo ceratopsian, here it is with the hey, no mating on camera. Stop it, Pentaceratops. Here it is with their Pentaceratops, which I still quite like this figure. Definitely one of my more favorite Papo releases in recent years, and of course you can display it bipedally or quadrupedally. And next up, here it is with Papo's Gorgosaurus, which I think pairs quite nicely with this figure, as I'm like knocking over one of my camera lights. You know, you can sub it in as an Albertosaurus. You know, Gorgosaurus and Albertosaurus are very similar, but I think these two figures will pair very nicely on your shelves. And next up, here it is with Papo's gigantic Spinosaurus. And next up, here it is with Papo's infamous Giganotosaurus. I know I gave this figure a lot of crap, but this thing has really grown on me. It's just a fun, dumb dinosaur figure. I really don't give a crap that it's posed like this. It's still a beautifully sculpted figure. And you can't do Papo comparisons without the OG green stand-in T-Rex. And lastly, here it is with other Pachyrhinosaur figures from other companies. We have the Batat, the Beast of the Mesozoic, Safari Limited, and PNSO. As you can see, all of them are great Pachyrhinosaur figures in their own right, and like I mentioned earlier, they're all Pachyrhinosaurus lacustae. Someday we'll get a Canadentist and a Perotorium, but you know, I'm not gonna hold my breath because I'll probably drop dead from waiting. But yeah, Pachyrhinosaurus, very popular dinosaur species, as you can tell. Most companies have at least one in their lineup, and you know, you can't really go wrong choosing any one of these to be a Pachyrhinosaurus in your collection. final thoughts on this Pachyrhinosaurus. It's a good figure. There's definitely much better options out there, especially now that this figure is 12 years old, but still a neat figure to add to your collection. Unfortunately, it's been retired for almost 4 years now. When they do pop up, they are quite expensive, so I wish anyone luck still trying to track one of these down. It has a couple quirks to it. The toes on the outside of the hands shouldn't be painted, and the position of them is a little bit weird, and these weird deer antler ornamentation on top of the frill. But other than that, it's still a pretty decent Pachyrhinosaurus figure. The last couple of years, Papo really has not done much. The market has become very, very crowded in the last few years, which is a good thing. It gives us collectors more options to get the figures that are more to our taste in our collection. I just feel like Papo's heart really isn't into dinosaurs anymore, because I think they realize that other people are doing it better than them, and their offerings have been pretty much non-existent. What they have planned for 2022 does not have me impressed. I think the only thing I'm going to pick up is that repaint the Styracosaurus, because I really like the mold on that figure. But oh man, that Protoceratops, I still haunt my nightmares to this day. So that would do it for the review. I still have a few more older figures that I'll be posting reviews up in the next couple weeks, until some new stuff actually starts coming in. So be on the lookout for those. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.